Hi YouTube, Glenn here from F3 Landscape. I just thought I'd give a quick van talk today on the joys and difficulties of commercial work, or should I say the difficulties in in trying to navigate the commercial sector. So I don't know how many of you are watching this that are in the gardening business, or whether you are just watching them by interest or curiosity, but anyway, there's sort of two sectors when it comes to gardening. You know, there's the commercial and then there's the residential end of it. A lot of us will strive for the big commercial, regular, year-long maintenance sort of contract stuff. That way you can, you know, guarantee your income, you can expand, grow, etc. But the last 2 months or so is when you'll see an awful lot of people going out and tenders will come up and people will go out and price jobs and do all that stuff all over again. So in the last few weeks I spent a lot of time going out and pricing these commercial jobs that can range from schools to hospitals, that can be shopping centres, anything in between. And maintenance can encompass, you know, grass cutting, litter picking, power washing. That whole sort of array of duties can be covered in general, like maintenance for a property or an area, you know. So as I said, on average I'm going out several times a week pricing and looking at these commercial gigs. For us, these are certainly our bread and butter, you know, that keeps us going even throughout the winter, you know, where we have that regular income every month. And that is the beauty about it. So the problem is though about commercial work is, as anyone will tell you that's doing it or is trying to do it, is that it can be very, very difficult to get, you know. Competition is extremely hard, and it's extremely competitive. Most of the time, you know, it's simply going to come down to cost, you know. An awful lot of people couldn't give a shit, you know, if you're great at what you do, if you're the best gardener, if you're going to do the best job. That's not how it's going to work, you know. It's 9 times out of 10 it's going to come down to cost, you know. I've had, I don't know how many emails, you know, in the last few weeks, basically, that we were undercut on some of the commercial gigs that we were reapplying for, and where they were retendering for another year, you know. And I'd get the email back from the asset management company to say, yeah, we've gone with a cheaper company to do it, you know, which seems to be the pretty much the standard, you know. And you know, I just want to know how do you people, or how do you manage it, you know? I mean, do you spend a lot of time going out, and how many properties do you look at, and how many do you get in terms of success rate? Like, I know for some of the commercial gigs that we're looking at, or that we have looked at, there's been, you know, 5-10 other contractors involved in pricing, you know. It's been extremely competitive, and some of them are able to do it so cheap, you know, and that's the biggest problem, is that like, you know, obviously when you're pricing in jobs, you factor in your cost and your labor costs, and you do the maths, and then you come up with a figure of what you need in order for it to be really profitable and worthwhile. But these bigger companies, they're not doing that, you know. They you know, they have staff employed, and they, you know, their whole mantra is basically hammer out as many of them in a day as we can for, you know, as little as we can. And you know, that way they will take over the market in one way, and push an awful lot of the smaller guys out of the market, you know, as part of that. So that's the difficulty, you know, and that's the difficulty that we even find, is that, you know, you go out and you look at a lot of jobs, and you know, I don't know what the percentages are here, but you know, it's certainly the low percent that you will be the one you go back to, unless you really want to do it cheap, you know, and which we don't, you know. We price ourselves, I don't think we're at the top end of the market, but we certainly are not the cheapest end of the market, you know. We're somewhere in that middle mark, maybe a little bit more, but you know, that's the way I sort of want to run the business in more of a premium sense, rather than a, you know, just simply get as many as you can for as cheap as you can. And you know, I suppose there are a lot of other ideas will be as well that following year, you know, you might be able to up the price a little bit and make it a little bit more on it. But anyway, guys, just a quick one. I just want to see what difficulty you have in terms of these commercial contracts, and how do you find getting them, and do you bother with them anymore, or do you just simply stick with the residential work? Do you find that good? We do have some residential work. A lot of our residential work we have is sort of more on the premium sort of end of the road, where, you know, they're big properties, and we're out every week, etc. And we do have some very quick mow blow and goes, but a lot of them are sort of more on the higher end, that you know, pay a premium for to have someone there every week and maintaining their property or site, you know. But anyway, I just want to do a quick video on commercial work, and you know, just wanted to voice our work on it and our opinion on it to date, you know, which is that it's bloody hard to get, you know, and it's the market is so saturated with gardeners, landscapers and property maintenance that it's, you know, depending on where you live, you could have hundreds of competitors, you know. And you know, it's, you know, listen, it's truly hard to separate yourself from the rest, you know. And especially when you're a small business, you know, where you know, you're you're spending your time in between jobs going out and looking at this work and pricing it, spending time to do up a quote and etc, meeting these people, and then, you know, you're told no, which unfortunately the majority of us are told, you know. Only the lucky one is successful. But anyway, guys, basically that's the joys of what we do for the next few weeks, and certainly what we have done for the last few weeks is tendering and pricing these jobs, and seeing how many gigs we can get for the next 12 months or so, you know. But it's tough, it's hard, and you know, unless you really want to be cheap, you know, it's really, a lot of it is luck, you know. But anyway, do let me know, do like, subscribe, and thank you for all those that have subscribed so far to the channel. It's definitely appreciated. But there's more to come, and I will try and get more regular videos out. I know I've been saying I will, but it's just been so busy, I haven't had the time really. But I will try and get more out going forward, and hopefully it can be more of a routine. But do let me know what it's like in your business, if you're in the gardening business, and you know, you're tendering, and how do you find that whole process, you know, and what, you know, what difficulties have you had in your business trying to get commercial work, or do you do commercial work? And you know, let me know your thoughts and views on it. Anyway, I'd be greatly interested in knowing what you think. So anyway, guys, have a good day, and I'll see you all very soon, and cheers, and like, subscribe, and again,